My whole life was a path laid out before me. I was to marry into the Suryavanshi family. This alliance meant everything to my parents. It brought honor and a strong future for our name. I had always accepted this role. I believed it was my destiny. I felt a deep sense of duty, a quiet pride in my place. I never questioned it. I spent years preparing for this sacred bond, learning all I needed to know. My sister, Priya, always seemed supportive. She would hug me tightly and tell me how proud she was. But sometimes a flicker in her eyes made me wonder. She would offer advice that felt a little too sharp, a compliment that was a bit too hollow. I always pushed these feelings away. She was my sister. I trusted her with my family's reputation and my own future. I thought she was my ally. The preparations for the engagement ceremony were grand. Our home buzzed with activity. Fabrics shimmered, and the scent of jasmine filled the air. The community spoke of nothing else. Everyone saw this alliance as a bridge between two powerful families. My parents glowed with pride. I felt the weight of their expectations, but also the joy of fulfilling my role. It was a dream coming true. Then I started to notice small things. Priya would drop a comment, seemingly innocent. "Ananya is so independent," she'd say to a relative. "Sometimes she forgets our traditions," or "her spirit can be misunderstood." These were not direct insults. They were gentle warnings. I dismissed them at first. I thought she was just being herself, but I saw the way people listened, how their expressions changed. Whispers began to reach me, not about specific actions, but about my character. Rumors of me being too outspoken, too modern, too ambitious. I heard that these stories had even reached the Suryavanshi family. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. I could not understand where they came from. I had always been so careful, so dutiful. I started to feel a growing sense of dread. I noticed a change in my fiancé's family. Their calls became less frequent. Their smiles, once warm, now seemed polite and distant. My fiancé, Rohan, started avoiding my gaze. I tried to ask him what was wrong, but he would only say, "Everything is fine, Ananya." His words did not match his eyes. I felt bewildered and increasingly anxious. A cold fear began to settle in my heart. Then came the scandal. A fabricated incident, a leaked story to the community. It claimed I had behaved disgracefully at a private gathering. The details were vague, but the damage was immediate. My name was dragged through the mud. Our family's honor was stained. I felt a wave of nausea, a deep, burning shame. I knew it was all lies, but no one seemed to believe me. The world around me crumbled. The engagement was dissolved publicly. My parents were furious, their faces etched with anger and disappointment. They saw only my failure, the shame I had brought upon them. They disinherited me from my birthright. My future, my entire identity, vanished in a single moment. I stood there numb as their words cut deeper than any blade. I was no longer their daughter, no longer a part of the family. I collapsed, feeling utterly annihilated. My world had ended. I was culturally ostracized, stripped of everything I had ever known. My identity, so tied to my family and this alliance, was gone. The pain was physical, a constant ache in my chest. I felt empty, a shell of the person I once was. How could everything I worked for, everything I believed in, be destroyed so completely? Days later, I overheard Priya talking to a distant aunt. She spoke of my wild nature and how she had tried to warn everyone. But then she let slip a small, triumphant smile. It was a fleeting moment, but it struck me cold. A chilling thought pierced through my despair. Could Priya have done this? The idea was monstrous, but it sparked a tiny, gut-wrenching suspicion. The thought was unbearable, yet it refused to leave me. I felt lost, adrift in a sea of shame. My parents' disappointment hung heavy in the air, a constant pressure. I saw Priya more often now, always near them, always offering what she called comfort. Her words were soft, but I sensed a new, unsettling confidence in her. She started talking about duty and family honor, almost echoing my own past words, but with a strange, possessive tone. It made my stomach churn. A cold dread settled in as I watched her subtly move into my former space. One evening, I overheard my parents speaking softly behind a closed door. My mother's voice was low. Perhaps Priya could restore our honor, mend what has been broken. My father agreed. She is dutiful, unlike Ananya. The words hit me like a physical blow, stealing my breath. My worst fear was real. Priya was being considered for my alliance, for the very future she had stolen. A fierce, burning fire ignited inside me. This wasn't just about my shame anymore. This was about a monstrous injustice. I would fight for the truth. My despair turned into a sharp, relentless focus. I began to look for answers for any crack in Priya's facade. I remembered her subtle, seemingly innocent comments, the strange timing of the rumors that had circulated. I started retracing my steps, thinking back to every conversation, every interaction, no matter how small. I looked for patterns, for connections that I had missed in my blind trust. It was like piecing together a shattered mirror. Each tiny shard was a memory, a suspicion, a hint. My mind raced with possibilities, driven by a desperate need for truth. My old governess, a kind woman named Mrs. Sharma, often visited our home. She had known Priya and me since we were small children. One day she pulled me aside, her eyes filled with a quiet concern. "Priya asked me many questions about you, Ananya," she whispered, her voice low. "She wanted to know your routines, your friends, everything about your movements before the engagement." Then she discreetly gave me a small, folded note. It detailed a secret meeting Priya had with a known gossiping relative just days before the scandal broke. My hands trembled as I held the proof. This was it. This was the beginning of her unraveling. I found Priya in the family garden, humming a light tune, seemingly carefree. I walked up to her, holding Mrs. Sharma's note, my heart a drum against my ribs. "Did you truly think I wouldn't find out?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper but filled with a cold, righteous anger. Her eyes widened slightly, and the mask of innocence she always wore began to slip, revealing a flicker of fear. "You wanted my life, didn't you? My future?" I pressed, my voice gaining strength. Her silence was deafening, a confession in itself. Her face twisted, betraying the ugly truth of her jealousy and calculated cruelty. The next day, I gathered my parents and the key community elders in our formal receiving room. My heart pounded with a mix of fear and resolve, but my voice was steady, clear. I laid out the irrefutable evidence. Mrs. Sharma's brave testimony, the meticulously pieced-together timeline of Priya's rumors, the carefully placed lies that had systematically dismantled my future. My parents' faces were a canvas of shock, disbelief, and utter devastation. The elders listened gravely, their expressions growing somber with each word. The silence in the room was heavy, broken only by my calm, unwavering words of truth. The revelation shattered our family. Priya tried to deny everything, to twist the narrative, but the truth was undeniable, laid bare for all to see. The elders, guardians of our traditions, unequivocally condemned her actions. The community, once quick to judge and shame me, now turned their outrage and disappointment squarely on her. Her dreams of the alliance, of taking my rightful place, crumbled into dust before her very eyes. My parents, who had once been so proud of her, now looked at her with a profound sadness, a deep, inescapable shame. The dynamics of our home and our standing in the community shifted completely and irreversibly. In the difficult days that followed, the Suryavanshi family, having learned the full, chilling truth, reached out to me. They offered their deepest apologies and reinstated the alliance, recognizing the injustice I had suffered. My parents, humbled and heartbroken by their own blindness, asked for my forgiveness with tears in their eyes. They returned my inheritance, acknowledging my rightful place within the family and community. It was a bittersweet victory, a hollow triumph. My honor was restored, but the deep scars of betrayal, the profound pain of my sister's cruelty, remained. I saw Priya, diminished and broken, her grand, stolen aspirations in ruins. I chose not to reclaim the marriage alliance. My future, I realized, was no longer tied to that specific path. Instead, I used my restored standing and influence to ensure Priya faced consequences commensurate with her heinous actions. She was publicly sanctioned by the community elders, her reputation irrevocably stained by her deceit. Her name, once whispered with admiration, now carried the heavy weight of her treachery. It was not the alliance I sought, but seeing justice served, witnessing her public downfall, brought a quiet, deep, and hard-won vindication to my soul. It was a necessary closure. The path ahead was new and unfamiliar, stretching out before me like an uncharted map. The pain of betrayal would always be a part of me, a deep ache, but it no longer defined me, no longer controlled my destiny. I started to build a life on my own terms, free from the crushing expectations that had once guided my every step. I learned to trust my own judgment, to find strength and resilience within myself, a strength I never knew I possessed. I carried the profound lessons, the hard-won wisdom gained from such immense loss. My destiny was no longer preordained. It was something I would now create, step by painful step, filled with quiet hope and a deep, enduring peace.